In this module, I'm going to make a kind of retro pad sound. So starting off with the initialized patch once again, I'll just turn off the send effects. And this time I'm going to go for a wavetable. I think it's going to be one of the mixed instruments one. And this violin hard. Obviously it doesn't sound particularly impressive on its own. What I want to do though is I want to kind of oscillate somewhere in this wavetable, kind of around the middle. So instead of using the envelope for this, which is a nice way of creating a slightly more natural violin sound, but what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to use LFO1 here to modulate the index dial instead. Turn up the amount and turn it down. Maybe have it around there somewhere. And okay, first of all, I'm going to make the sound a bit more pleasant and kind of closer to the thing we're after. So I'm going to add some extra voices. And I'm going to play a chord. So I'm going to go to the voicing section, and there's a preset in here somewhere. You need to search a bit higher up. Chord 2. That's the one I want to go for. So next I'm going to use the same LFO here to modulate the X side parameter. So I'm going to take that up here. So the pulse width is going to start being modulated at the same rate as we're modulating through the wavetable. Might change it to the mid mode though, so instead of stretching from either side, it's going to go from the middle. That's the kind of effect I want, not too drastic there. And let's now kind of work on the shape a little bit. So as this is going to be a pad sound, we want the amplitude to kind of rise up slowly. But actually first, let's do this filter. So I want the filter to sweep in as well. So I'm going to turn the cutoff down, leave it on the default low pass for now, and turn the envelope up, and then I need to turn the attack up so that it opens nice and slowly. And we want it to close nice and slowly as well, so turn the decay right up and change that slope. And we also want a long release, but of course I need to sort out the amplitude envelope for that. So basically I'm going to make the attack and decay exactly the same, and also release as the filter envelope up here. So the level kind of mimics what's going on with the filter here. If we increase the release here, then when I let go of a note, it won't just cut out suddenly, so we'll get a nice long tail, a bit like reverb, which is what we're after with a pad sound. course, now we need to think about our filter release as well, because if that's nice and short, then it will jump down to just low frequencies instantly. So we need to make that long as well. And increase the curve of our release too. It's kind of the shape we want. What I'm going to do though is I'm going to use a second filter here, which I need to now route the oscillator to by going to the routing section, routing it to filter 2. And this one is going to be our colourful filter, which is going to turn it into a really retro kind of sound. So I'm going to go for the talk box. I like it around about there. Might just make these attacks a little bit quicker. It's going a little bit too high on the cutoff there as well, so I might bring the envelope down a bit so it's not getting quite so toppy. Yeah, and on this cutoff now, what I'm going to do is set up some different modulation. So I'm going to activate LFO2 here. I'm going to make the waveform a little bit different on this one. I think I'm going to make it this one here, and I want the cutoff to kind of jump upwards from where it is, so I'm going to offset it so it's just above here, and then map that to our second filter cutoff here. The moment it's way too fast, I'm going to bring the speed down. You can play around the sustains here to make the sound a louder volume whilst you hold a note down, or you can make it fade in and out. It's up to you. If you sustain it, then it will just sustain. It will just literally stay at a loud or whatever volume you set it to whilst you hold the note down, and then when you let go, then the release will fade out. So it's up to you how exactly both the level and the filter cutoff behaves while you hold down a note. So I think this is kind of the first oscillator done. Now what I'm going to do now is add in a second one, which I think might be one of these. Might go for one of these phalanx ones. Let's have a listen. Just mute our first oscillator. So I've gone for this phalanx hands up one, which is actually a factory bass shape. And what I'm going to do is roll off the top so we're not getting any of the high frequencies. And also turn up the sub. You can see how it follows the cutoff because it's routing to filter 1, and it's also going to amplitude envelope 1. So we're getting the same pattern as oscillator 1. So if I mix them together now, might also transpose oscillator 1 down. Going to slow down LFO 2 a little bit. And I might just play around with the phase a bit as well, so it's not, so it's coming down maybe initially. I could probably tweak that for ages, so I'll stop there. And now I'm just actually going to add a third oscillator, which maybe I'll keep as a sawtooth. And I just want to add some, just a little bit of that buzziness at the top. So maybe around there. And now I'll play around with the mixer section to get the levels right. This time, I'm not going to bother with any send effects or regular effects. I'll just go straight to the master effects rack and leave the EQ for a minute. And I'm just going to add some reverb, just the regular reverb. Hall is good with a nice long time. Finally, our limiter, just to normalize it. What I might do actually is just use FX1 just to EQ a bit of this first oscillator on its own, so I can get the kind of sound of that right without affecting the others. So I can go to the others, make sure they're not routing to FX1, and then just play around with that one a little bit. Just solo it for a second. Yeah, just kind of taking out some of those harsher frequencies there to kind of smooth out the pad. Now, all together. That's our pad basically done. And of course you could go in and use more, use the LFOs to apply more modulation. At the moment we've kept it to just the pulse width and the index of the wavetable 1, but we could apply it to more parameters as well, playing around with perhaps some FM. Or maybe modulating the formant and that kind of thing. But for now, I think I'll leave the patch as it is.